I'm not gonna do it like how I did it the last time. The last time I stayed up way too late and woke up very, very early just to catch the latest scoop and produce that content for you. But it didn't really, mattered as much, and it wasn't really as exciting. And you know what? I'm also disappointed with the Omega and Tudor's releases this year. And surprisingly, what's surprising about that disappointment is that it ranges from one end of the spectrum to the other. Because Omega disappointed by underwhelming while Tudor was doing too much, which is kind of disappointing in a design standpoint. So let's begin with Omega first. Let's talk about Omega, and what I would like to say about Omega's release of their Summer Seamaster 75th anniversary celebration is that they really had this cool gimmick. I love the gimmick that they had throughout their collection. So if you're one of those rich folks out there who could actually afford all of the pieces in the collection, I assume Omega would come up with a special commemorative suitcase for it as well. I've never seen that. It's just a speculation on my end, but it was a cool gimmick because they had the blue colors ranging from light as it goes down with a deeper depth rating. The color also becomes darker. That's a very cool gimmick. It was very nice to see how Omega played around with a simple concept without really changing so much in their lineup, which I will get to in a moment, which is the very big disappointment on my part. Now, the second one that I really like is that they rode the trend the right way, the trend of fumé dials and the color blue, and they rode it very beautifully with all of the models in their Seamaster collection. And that's something that that we all should appreciate when it comes to designing watches, because color, even the slightest of changes, can make a big difference. Now, the next and final positive thing that I could think about with this Seamaster release is that none of them seems to be limited. So anyone who could have a trip to their Omega boutique could actually reserve, as far as I know, any of these 75th Seamaster anniversary models. Now, which of those models that really piqued my interest? The first one would be kind of strange for many people because I've seen many YouTubers talk about it. It might be in some of their lists. It's some of the least favorite. It's the Seamaster World Timer. I actually love that Seamaster, and that's because of the complexity of the dial and at the same time the elegance that it has. It's a little bit too big, for my taste, or for other people's taste, but I think it's a very nice watch that really captured my interest. And then also the Diver 300, because that's really the design direction that really appeals to my taste. I like the Diver 300 Professional, which is the go-to Seamaster nowadays, which is not bad, but I like the Diver 300M more. Now, the bad stuff. The gimmick that they had for the dial of the Deep Sea was actually really great. That would have put it at the top of my list if I rank all of these watches from best to worst. But because they had to put in Omega was here, which is kind of childish in my opinion, even though it's a cool gimmick that you have to shine a black light to see it, really dampens the impression to me. They should have left it as it is. The actual representation, the textural representation of the Mariana Trench or Challenger Deep, that would have been enough. Or maybe if they had just a small Omega insignia and omit the Omega was here thing, that would have been great. That would have been enough for me. But no, they had to make it like childish in that sense. I think that's kind of jarring to me. And finally, the biggest disappointment for me on Omega on this one is that this is the 75th anniversary of the Omega Seamaster. They could have had the opportunity to produce or reproduce an old model and reproduce it with modern materials and manufacturing techniques. Maybe like, for example, an Omega Seamaster chronograph. We had a lot of Seamasters back in the time, and this was their chance, a 75th anniversary, a milestone anniversary, to re-release an old or vintage design. Maybe they're not yet done. Hopefully, I'm still holding hope that maybe Omega still has that one more thing. Oh, and one more thing by Apple, and they will be releasing a new redesigned Omega Seamaster. But if this is all that they have to offer, then it's kind of underwhelming. It's a big milestone year, and they blew it without releasing a new or an all new redesigned Omega Seamaster. Now, moving to Tudor, the FXD lineup continues to grow, which is a good thing. That's something that I find very positive. The reception initially was kind of mixed with the FXD, but veering towards the positive, and now we're gradually seeing what Tudor really has in store for the FXD, and it seems that they really are trying to expand the FXD even more as the time passes, and they're using sports collaboration to tell everybody that, hey, the FXD is here to stay and it's not just a one-time deal. Another thing that I like about Tudor's design direction and marketing direction is that production direction is that they still continue to use exotic materials. In this time, it's a carbon case, which is something that I admire with Tudor. It's something that they continue to present as an alternative to its big sister, the Rolex company, and not to mention that these are amazingly priced at $5,000 and $3,000 respectively. These are very, very affordable, well, relatively affordable to the luxury watch brand crowd, and it looks something that is unique to the Tudor lineup of sports watches that we don't see every day, that we don't see on this kind of price range. However, that's also the downside of Tudor with their partnership with Alinghi and Redbull. It's kind of too much. First and foremost, they're using more than 3 colors here. They have the blue, they have the red, they have the black and gray, and then they have the white colors of the indices. It's just all over the place. I would have demanded a little bit more restraint on their part, when it comes to their color schemes. I know that they have to put white and red in there because of Alinghi and because of Red Bull, but they could have done this in a more subtle way that's less in your face, because you see the reds everywhere. The reds on the outlines, the reds on the dial, the reds everywhere, and I didn't like that. I know those are accents, but you can do accent colors in a subtle and classy way, even if you're designing a sports watch for that part. And I feel by doing too much, it kind of lost their identity. The Tudor's always been explorative when it comes to their designs compared to other more restrained brands, but this is pushing far too much, and I think that's kind of disappointing. But I guess they had the opportunity to one-up Omega on their own week of releases, but they kind of blew it too. So hopefully next time they can learn from this mistake and have a little bit more restraint, and we could see the Tudor that we all know and love. And yeah, Omega, please, come on, release a new Seamaster redesign. I mean, look at the past few years, what you've been releasing. They released a very nice James Bond edition, Even if it's not a full redesign, but they came up with cool designs within the James Bond Seamaster anniversary. Also, what about that Speedmaster escapement that you could regulate? That was also another big innovation. We're happy to get those. But for the 75th anniversary of the Seamaster, a collection of watches that had so many great designs through the years, you could have picked one of the good retro or vintage designs to re-release this year, and you didn't do it. Hopefully you are still doing it, but if not, then this is a big disappointment for me.